Marvel UK had run out of US stories to publish in the Star Wars Weekly title, so they created all new tales. One story that ran in Star Wars Weekly number 107 through 115, published in 1980, saw our heroes team up with Imperials to fight off a creature which is inspired by the Alien movie that came out the prior year. In addition to the Alien link, this tale has a tribute to Star Trek and is written by the X-Men writer Chris Claremont. In this video, we will take a look at this very first Star Wars horror story. The Alien movie. Ridley Scott directed the first Alien movie, which was released in the US on May 25, 1979. The movie was written by Dan O'Bannon, who drew inspiration from many movies, including 1951's The Thing from Another World, which was remade by John Carpenter in 1982 as The Thing, 1956's Forbidden Planet, and 1958's It, The Terror from Beyond Space. While O'Bannon does not cite this last movie as an influence, the similarities between Alien and The Terror from Beyond Space stories are too numerous for it not to have been an inspiration. Alien is a science fiction horror story set in space. The alien in the movie is a xenomorph that picks off the crew of the spacecraft, the Nostromo, one by one before Ripley, played by Sigourney Weaver, defeats it at the end by blasting the creature into space. It was a box office success that, like Star Wars, has seen its fair share of knockoff films. Interestingly, the success of Star Wars in 1977 prompted 20th Century Fox to greenlight the Alien movie. Less than a year later, Marvel UK published the 9-part World of Fire story in the Star Wars Weekly magazine, which is partially inspired by that film. World of Fire. At the time this story was published, a standard Marvel comic was 17 pages. When the Star Wars Weekly title began in the UK, each magazine contained half a US issue, but when they realized they were going to run out of material, they started spreading each US comic across 3 weekly issues. This means the World of Fire story is the equivalent of 3 US comics or 51 pages. World of Fire is the title of the first chapter in the 9-part story originally published in Star Wars Weekly. It is also the title for the second Marvel Illustrated books featuring Star Wars, a paperback that reprinted these 9 issues for US readers. For this reason, I'm referring to all the content reprinted in that paperback using the title World of Fire. The first 5 chapters of the story do not show the alien monster. These issues are used to position our heroes and the Imperials onto the planet with the creature. It isn't until Star Wars Weekly number 112 that the monster appears and parallels to the Alien movie can be drawn. In Star Wars Weekly number 107, 2 Rebel scouts have been sent to the planet Alishan to investigate why a Rebel archaeological station has lost communication. They discover the base has been destroyed and bodies of the archaeologists are strewn about. One of the rebels, Arlo Tyre, enters one of the breached habitat domes and is cut down by an energy beam. The other rebel, Weighty Firestone, races back to his Y-Wing fighter, but as he lifts off, it is destroyed from an energy beam that emerges from one of the habitat domes. Meanwhile, on the Imperial planet Foundry, Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, C-3PO, R2-D2, and Mickey Shabandar are attempting to steal the Star Raker, an experimental Imperial combat spacecraft. While Leia holds off Imperial stormtroopers, Luke, Mickey, and the droids enter the ship and prepare it for launch. Leia is shot by the Imperials, but Mickey is able to retrieve her, and they depart the planet. In Star Wars Weekly number 108, titled Star Terror, the Star Raker successfully leaves the atmosphere and enters hyperspace. Leia has recovered, and a blurb incorrectly says they are headed to Rebel headquarters on the 3rd moon of Yavin. Yavin 4 is the location of the Rebel headquarters and is the 4th moon of Yavin. Just then, General Dodonna contacts them and sends them to Alishan to investigate. There is concern the archaeologists discovered a weapon, and Dodonna warns that it cannot fall into Imperial hands. When they reach Alishan, they are attacked by Imperial TIE fighters, which the experimental Imperial craft is able to handle easily. An Imperial cruiser appears, but it is quickly destroyed by an energy beam from the planet. The Star Raker is targeted from the planet in Star Wars Weekly number 109 titled Molten Doom. The ship's shields are able to withstand the attack, but the spacecraft is damaged and it begins falling towards the surface of the planet below. Luke is overwhelmed with despair, but he feels Obi-Wan's presence and manages to crash land the starship on the planet. The craft plows into a molten lava plain, burying it. Both Luke and Leia survive the crash. They find Mickey, who is gravely injured. This is a rare use of Obi-Wan Kenobi by Marvel. It isn't clear if Luke is just thinking about his old mentor or if Obi-Wan actually is reaching out through the Force to Luke. In either case, this is a nice touch. Luke and Leia perform surgery on Mickey to start Star Wars Weekly number 110, titled The Word for World is Death. Luke is exhausted from the concentration needed to use his lightsaber to cauterize Mickey's wounds, and when he is revived by Leia, he decides to use his lightsaber to dig them out from the hardened lava. He is tired and hot, but he is successful on reaching the surface. Before he can relax, he is grabbed by a stormtrooper and is confronted by an Imperial squad led by Major Grau. Luke lies and tells them he is named Lars Doomstrider. In Unholy Alliance from Star Wars Weekly number 111, Luke calls Leia to come up, and the Imperials immediately recognize her. Major Grau suggests the two groups work together to survive on the planet, and Leia agrees. Before they depart, Luke visits Mickey and tells her their plans. They leave Mickey, C-3PO, and R2-D2 behind on the Star Raker, while the Imperials, along with Luke and Leia, travel to the Rebel Archaeological Station. Luke senses an energy beam before it can strike, and he saves Grau. One of the stormtroopers is caught by an avalanche caused by the blast and is killed. When the group recovers from the near catastrophe, Luke wants to return to the Star Raker where the energy beam came from, but both Grau and Leia insist it is too far. Just then, another energy beam strikes the field where the Star Raker is located. The alien monster makes its debut in Star Wars Weekly number 112, titled A Creature in the Stars. The energy blast shown in the last issue clears the hardened lava from the top of the Star Raker. R2-D2 scans an energy field approaching the ship, and Mickey arms herself. R2-D2 incapacitates Mickey when a large creature enters the ship and picks up her lifeless body. When the creature leaves, C-3PO learns R2-D2 had placed her into biostasis to save Mickey. R2-D2 then revives her. Meanwhile, the Imperials, along with Luke and Leia, have investigated every habitat dome, but have found no survivors. The domes have been ripped to shreds along with the inhabitants. This is different than what was shown in Star Wars Weekly number 107, where intact bodies littered the rebel camp. While Luke tries to contact the Star Raker, Leia has found a notebook containing information about an underground city protected by an artificial barrier. The last entry in the notebook says the archaeologists plan to break into the city. Major Grau leads the group into a tunnel connected to the city. He leaves behind a stormtrooper to stand guard in the rebel station. In the tunnel, they find more bodies, and the barrier has been breached from the inside. Unsurprisingly, the stormtrooper left behind is attacked and killed by the creature, which is now stalking the group. Star Wars Weekly number 113 is called The Guardian of Forever. If this title sounds familiar, that's because there is a popular, original Star Trek television episode written by Harlan Ellison called The City on the Edge of Forever. That episode introduces a time portal called the Guardian of Forever near an ancient city. In Star Trek, the gateway can be used to travel to different times, locations, and dimensions. In this story, the group discovers a large ancient city inside a cave with advanced technologies, and it is clear this story's title is a tribute to that Star Trek tale. Major Grau is unable to contact the stormtrooper he left at camp, so he decides to have another stormtrooper guard the bridge leading to the city. After they cross the bridge and enter a building, they hear the stormtrooper scream and race out to see the monster on the other side of the bridge, having killed the lone trooper. They open fire and presumably bury the creature under the rubble, which blocks the entrance to the cave. Grau suggests they can use proton charges to clear the rubble, but they decide to explore the city first. As Leia ponders hieroglyphics they have discovered, the monster is watching her from the shadows above. Luke spots the creature about to leap on Leia in Star Wars Weekly number 114, titled Betrayal. Luke's blaster is ineffective, so he pushes Leia off a walkway and uses a grappling hook to prevent their fall. They then swing toward a balcony, but they both hit the ground hard and are knocked unconscious. This is the second time in Marvel Comics that Luke uses a rope to rescue Princess Leia. In Star Wars number 14, Luke uses rope hanging from a ship mast on the water planet Drexel to rescue Princess Leia. I love these callbacks to the original movie. Meanwhile, Major Grau and his second-in-command, Sergeant Anarine, are stalked by the creature. Leia wakes first and sees more hieroglyphics. She has a breakthrough with deciphering them and quickly wakes Luke up. They then race toward the control center for the city. Grau and Anarine are cornered by the creature when it suddenly stops and disappears. Another Imperial, Ensign Lopaki, has followed Luke and Leia to the control center and plans to apprehend them. He doesn't agree with Major Grau working with the rebels. Just then, the entrance to the control center closes and Luke and Leia warn Lopaki to turn around. Star Wars Weekly number 115, titled The Monster's Secret, is the final issue in the story arc. Lopaki turns to face the creature, which immediately kills the ensign. Luke ignites his lightsaber, but the monster easily swats him away. Leia begins firing when Grau and Anarine appear and begin firing. They soon discover that the creature is being hurt when they attack the machinery in the room. They begin firing at the consoles in the room, and the creature goes berserk. Luke rises and confronts the monster, sinking his lightsaber into its chest. The creature, an energy being, overloads and the equipment in the room explodes. Days later, the Starraker takes off from the planet with the rebels and 2 Imperials aboard. Leia invites Major Grau to join the rebellion, but that night, he and Anarine leave the craft in an escape pod. Satisfied the Imperials cannot use anything on Alashan, our heroes decide to let Grau go. Thoughts? While Alien no doubt prompted this story's creation, Forbidden Planet is the larger influence. In Forbidden Planet, the United Planets sends a spaceship to Altair 4 to investigate the disappearance of another craft of scientists 20 years earlier. Altair 4 was previously inhabited by an ancient race called the Krell, which had advanced technology. The monster that stalks the crew of C-57D in Forbidden Planet is created from immense energy provided by underground machines created by the Krell. That monster, like the creature in this story, is able to disappear and reappear at a different location. The only confusion I have with the story is why energy beams are used to dispatch the rebels, but later on, the monster is using claws to rip apart its prey. If the writer wanted to hide the nature of the threat, then the initial deaths should have been vague, and it shouldn't have been described that energy beams were used. It makes sense that once the group enters the city, the monster would not use energy beams to prevent damaging machinery, but the stormtrooper guarding the rebel camp was killed using claws, not an energy beam. Overall, I think this is a very good Star Wars horror story, especially for being the first one ever. There is a mystery set up at the beginning, and it was very much in the flavor of Star Wars how the heroes ended up trapped on the planet with the creature. It was ingenious having an honorable Imperial leader in Major Grau, allowing for plenty of Imperial trooper fodder for the monster to pick off as the mystery unfolded. I thought for sure that Mickey was going to die when the monster entered the Starraker. I'm also honestly surprised we never saw this character again after this story because we learned so little about her. I do like that at the end of the story, it is revealed the machinery in the ancient city has not been destroyed. This means the planet of Alashan can be revisited in a future tale. There were just a few story arcs that were created first for UK audiences. I did a video on Way of the Wookiee and The Day After the Death Star, which I recommend you watch if you like this one. Like those two stories, this tale provides cliffhanger endings as well as recap pages. Recap pages are unique to these UK stories and remind me quite a bit of how Star Wars tales are told in the newspaper strips. The writer for this story arc is Chris Claremont. Claremont previously wrote Star Wars number 17, a flashback story to an adventure Luke Skywalker shared with his best friend Biggs Darklighter on Tatooine, and Star Wars Annual number 1, where our heroes confront Imperials who have subjugated the Sky Tree on the planet Sky. After this story, Claremont wrote the 2-part Star Wars number 53 and 54, which are best known for reusing material originally meant for the John Carter Warlord of Mars title. Look for a future video about these two issues. Chris Claremont is best known for writing the Uncanny X-Men title for Marvel Comics. His legendary stint on that title began with X-Men number 94 and extended all the way to Uncanny X-Men number 279. During his time on that title, it became one of Marvel's most successful series. Clearly, Claremont was inspired by the Alien movie for the World of Fire story, But he also introduced a species of aliens in the X-Men title that bear an even more remarkable resemblance to the aliens in the films. In Uncanny X-Men number 155, published in March 1982, he introduced the Brood, aliens who plant embryos into other living beings which take over the host body. These aliens also are insect-like in appearance and social structure, complete with brood queens. The insect-like social structure and an alien queen would be introduced in the Alien sequel, Aliens, directed by James Cameron in 1986. Thank you for watching this video. Please like and subscribe so I can bring you more content, and please leave a comment below.